Welcome to Epic Reads Unfolded.
Yeah.
Today, we're going to be looking at I Will Teach You to Be Rich by Ramit Sethi. We've got a ton of notes and highlights ready to go. Should be fun.
Yeah, it's a great book, super practical, gets right to the point. Definitely a classic for a reason.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, so one of the things that I noticed that you had highlighted was all this stuff about credit scores.
Yeah.
And I know that they're important, but the book claims a high score can save you literally hundreds of thousands of dollars over your lifetime.
Absolutely.
Is that really true?
It is, and it's all about leverage. So think about it like this. A good credit score unlocks better interest rates. We're talking about mortgages, car loans, everything.
Oh, okay.
And Ramit uses this really great example in the book. He talks about a $200,000 mortgage.
Okay.
At a 5.75% interest rate versus a 6.75% interest rate. And over 30 years, that seemingly tiny 1% difference, it adds up to $35,000 in savings.
Wow. $35,000. Okay. I'm officially paying attention now. But doesn't the conventional wisdom say that you should just ditch the credit cards altogether?
Well, yeah, a lot of people say that, but Ramit actually has a different approach. He encourages using credit cards, but strategically. So the key here is paying them off in full every month to build that credit history and get all those rewards and perks. And he even gives you a script for negotiating lower interest rates and getting those pesky fees waived.
Wait, you can negotiate with credit card companies?
Oh, yeah, more often than you think, especially if you have a good track record as a customer. It's all about being informed and not being afraid to ask for what you want.
Okay. So credit cards, they're not necessarily the enemy. What else stood out to you from the book?
You highlighted a section about how banks make money, which is something that most people, just don't even think about.
Yeah, you're right. For me, banking has always been kind of a black box.
Yeah.
Money goes in, money comes out, but I have no idea what happens in between.
It's actually pretty straightforward. Basically, banks take our deposits.
Right.
And they lend that money out to other people at a higher interest rate than what they pay us. It's called arbitrage, and it's how they make a profit. But it's really important to be aware of some of the tactics they use to, maximize those profits.
So how do we avoid falling into those traps?
Be a savvy consumer. Read the fine print, understand those teaser rates, be on the lookout for sneaky fees, and, most importantly, be willing to negotiate.
Oh, okay.
Just like your friend who got her ATM fees waived just by asking.
Yeah, that was amazing. She's my hero. But is it really that simple?
You'd be surprised. Banks are often more willing to work with you than you might think, especially if you've been a good and loyal customer. And that's where the book comes in handy. Ramit provides a bunch of scripts and tips for navigating those conversations.
So it sounds like it's less about being like a financial genius and more about being informed.
Right.
And being proactive.
Exactly. And that's something that Ramit emphasizes throughout the book. He calls it the 85% solution. Getting things good enough is better than aiming for perfection and ending up, doing nothing at all.
I love that. It's so easy to get overwhelmed, especially with finances, and just be like, forget it, I'm out.
Yeah.
But okay, so what about this whole idea of conscious spending? What does that even mean?
It means aligning your spending with your values. Figure out what's truly important to you, what brings you joy, and then allocate your money accordingly. And be ruthless about cutting back on things that don't really matter that much.
Okay.
Like your friend who spends $21,000 a year on going out.
Yeah, he's legendary.
He's a legend. But he also invests a lot, too, so,
He's got his priorities straight.
Yeah.
It's all about balance.
It is. It is. It's not about deprivation. It's about being intentional with your money and making choices that support the kind of life that you actually want to live.
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense. So where does investing fit into all of this?
Investing is key.
Yeah.
Especially for building long-term wealth. And the cool thing is, it's not just for the wealthy. You highlighted the stat in the book. 80% of American millionaires are first-generation affluent.
Really? So they built their own wealth?
Yes.
They didn't inherit it.
Exactly.
Wow, that's really encouraging.
It is. It shows that consistent saving and investing are the real keys to building wealth.
So what's the secret? Where do we even begin?
Ramit lays out a really simple approach. He recommends building a diversified portfolio, and he really emphasizes starting early and taking advantage of something called compound interest.
Compound interest, yeah. I've heard of that, but I'm not exactly sure how it works.
We can definitely dive into that more later on. But the basic idea is that your money earns interest, and then that interest earns interest, and it kind of snowballs over time.
Okay.
It's pretty amazing. But the key is to start early and let that magic work its magic.
Okay. I am definitely intrigued.
Ah.
But I have to be honest. Sometimes this whole managing money thing can feel like a bit of a juggling act. There are so many different things to keep track of.
Totally, totally. And that's where automation comes in. Remember all those highlights you made in the section about automating your finances?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
That was mind-blowing.
Yeah.
It's like putting your money on autopilot. But how does it actually work in practice?
Well, that's what we'll be diving into next.
Awesome. Can't wait.
So Ramit, he calls it the conscious spending plan. And like the first step is figuring out where your money's actually going. Not like down to the penny,
Right.
but just getting a sense of those big categories.
Okay, so identifying the big leaks in the money bucket.
Got it.
Exactly.
So I'm guessing all those fancy budgeting apps aren't really necessary.
No, not really. His approach is more about focusing on those areas where you can have the biggest impact. So, housing, transportation,
Right.
those recurring expenses that can add up really quickly. Makes sense. It's like kind of like optimizing for the 80-20 rule.
Exactly.
Focus on the 20% that drives 80% of the results.
Yeah, you got it. And then once you've, identified those big categories, the next step is to automate.
Yeah.
So think about setting up separate accounts for different gears,
Oh, okay.
like checking, savings, retirement, maybe even like a fun money account.
Oh, I like that. Fun money.
Yeah.
So like dividing my money into different buckets,
Yes.
each with its own purpose. I like that visual, but how do I know how much to put in each bucket?
That's where that 85% solution comes in again. Don't get too hung up on the exact numbers. Just start with a reasonable allocation. You can always adjust it as you go. The important thing is just to have a system that you can actually stick with.
All right, so I've got my buckets all set up. What's next in this whole building a financial fortress plan?
Okay, so now it's time to tackle those pesky bills. And automating bill payments, it's a game changer. It saves time, reduces stress, and, you'll never have to worry about late fees again.
Okay, I am all about reducing stress. But seriously, remembering all those due dates, logging into different accounts, it's such a hassle.
It is, and that's why most banks offer online bill pay.
Oh, right.
So you can actually schedule payments in advance right from your checking account. Set it and forget it.
Oh, beautiful. Sign me up. No more late fees, no more missed payments. Now, what about those bills that seem to come at random times during the month?
Right.
Is there a way to wrangle those into some semblance of order?
You'd be surprised how often you can actually change your billing date.
Really?
Just call the company and ask. It might take a little bit of effort, but imagine, all your bills due around the same time every month.
Mind blown. I never even considered that I could control that. Okay, adding negotiate bill due dates to my to-do list right now.
There you go.
But with all this automation going on, how do I make sure everything is running smoothly? Do I still need to keep an eye on things?
Yeah, definitely. It's important to check in with your finances regularly. Ramit recommends a quick weekly review, just glance at your transactions, and then a more thorough monthly overview.
Okay, so it's not about constantly obsessing over every dollar, but just staying informed.
Exactly. And the beauty of it is, with everything automated, these reviews won't take much time at all.
Perfect. So we've covered a lot of ground. Credit scores, those bank shenanigans, conscious spending, and now automation. It's actually starting to feel like I can get a handle on this whole money thing.
Yeah, and that's the power of I will teach you to be rich. It's not just about tactics, it's about shifting your whole mindset about money.
From overwhelmed to empowered.
Precisely.
I like it.
And that empowerment, it opens up so many possibilities. Remember we were talking earlier about how investing isn't just for, the super wealthy.
Yeah, that really stuck with me, that anyone can build wealth through consistent saving and investing.
Exactly. And the book, it really breaks it down in a way that's easy to understand. It's not rocket science. It's about starting early, diversifying your investments, and letting the magic of compound interest do its thing.
Speaking of magic, that whole compound interest thing is something I really wish I'd understood, way back when.
It's pretty remarkable. Even small, consistent investments, they can grow exponentially over time.
So if someone's listening to this and they're thinking, oh, but I don't have enough to invest, what would you say to them?
Start small. The key is to be consistent and be patient. Time is your greatest ally when it comes to investing.
You know what? This is starting to feel less like a chore and more like an adventure.
I love that.
Like I'm finally taking control and building a future that I can be excited about.
That's exactly the point. Personal finance, it's not about deprivation. It's about creating a life that you love on your own terms. And I will teach you to be rich. It gives you the tools to do just that.
So for our listener who's been taking notes, highlighting passages, what's the biggest takeaway from all of this?
You have the power to change your financial future. You don't need a fancy degree or a trust fund, just the right knowledge and a willingness to take action.
And this deep dive, this is just the first step.
Right.
There's a whole world of resources out there. Ramit's website, online courses, all that stuff.
And don't forget about the power of community. Connect with like-minded people, share your experiences, support each other along the way.
That's a great point. Sometimes it's just easier to stay motivated when you've got other people in your corner cheering you on.
For sure. It's all about finding what works for you and building a system that supports your goals.
Speaking of goals, there's one big one that we haven't really touched on yet, and that's negotiating your salary.
Ooh, yes.
It's something that can feel really intimidating,
It can.
but it can also make a huge difference in your earning potential.
Huge. It's one of the most powerful levers you have when it comes to, increasing your income. And it can have this ripple effect on your finances for years to come.
But how you even begin to approach a salary negotiation?
Yeah.
I know I've always felt so awkward, like asking for more money.
Totally get it. But the good news is Remit provides this framework for approaching these conversations with confidence. It's about highlighting the value you bring to the company, framing your request in a way that benefits both parties, and, not being afraid to walk away if you don't get a fair offer.
That's a game changer. Imagine like walking into your next job interview with the confidence to negotiate like thousands of dollars more.
Exactly. It's about knowing your worth and advocating for yourself.
And that confidence comes from having a solid understanding of your finances, right?
Absolutely. When you know you're in control of your money, you can approach those conversations from a position of strength.
So I will teach you to be rich. It's not just about budgeting and saving. It's about creating a life of abundance and freedom.
Yes. It's about aligning your finances with your values and goals so you can live a richer, more fulfilling life.
Okay, this deep dive has been amazing. I'm feeling so fired up to take action. Like I can actually start building my own path to financial freedom.
That's what we love to hear. And remember, it's not about deprivation. It's about empowerment.
It's about taking control of your money so your money doesn't control you.
And it's about having fun along the way. Personal finance doesn't have to be boring or stressful. It can be an exciting journey of self-discovery and growth.
I'm starting to see that now. It's about creating a life that you love on your own terms.
Exactly. And that's what I Will Teach You to Be Rich is all about.
So for our listener who's been diligently taking notes and absorbing all this wisdom, what's the most important message we want to leave them with?
You have the power to create your own financial destiny. Don't wait for permission or for someone to tell you what to do. Take ownership of your finances, invest in yourself, and start building a future that you're proud of.
And remember, the best time to start is now. Don't let fear or procrastination hold you back. Just take that first step and watch the magic of compound growth unfold.
So go forth and be rich. We believe in you.
It's amazing how much we've covered, all from like your notes on I Will Teach You to Be Rich.
Yeah. It's a really, really packed book, a lot of practical advice you can actually use.
Speaking of practical advice, one thing that stood out to me was all the stuff about negotiating your salary.
Yes.
It's something that I think a lot of people, myself included, struggle with.
Oh, yeah, for sure. It's one of those things that can feel really intimidating, but it can make such a big difference in like your overall earning potential.
Right, like even a small increase in your starting salary, that can like snowball over time.
Exactly. Compound over time leads to way higher earnings throughout your career.
Totally. Okay, but how do you actually approach a salary negotiation without feeling like awkward or pushy?
Yeah, it's a valid concern. But Remit gives you this like framework for approaching those conversations. And it's really about like understanding your worth, doing your research, and, presenting your request in a way that highlights the value that you bring.
So it's not just saying, hey, I want more money. It's more like, here's what I bring to the table.
Yeah, exactly. And it's about being prepared to walk away if you don't get what you deserve.
Right.
That confidence comes from knowing your value and, knowing that you have other options.
It's like what we were saying earlier about like negotiating bank fees or credit card fees.
Yeah.
Right? It's about being informed. and not being afraid to advocate for yourself.
Exactly. Taking control of your finances,
Yeah.
knowing what you deserve.
This has been like such an eye-opening deep dive. I feel like I have a whole new perspective on money. I feel more confident about actually managing it effectively.
That's awesome. I love to hear that.
Yeah.
And remember, this is just the beginning. I Will Teach You to Be Rich is a great foundation, but you've got to take this knowledge and apply it to your own life.
Right. And there are so many resources out there. Like we were talking about Ramit's website and courses, but there's also a ton of other great stuff out there.
Yeah. And don't underestimate the power of, community.
Oh, that's true.
Find other people who are, on the same journey. Share your experiences, support each other.
Right, because sometimes it's just easier to stay motivated when you have like a support system.
Totally. It's all about finding what works for you and building a system that supports your goals.
This deep dive has been such a great reminder that financial freedom is actually achievable. It's
Yeah.
not about luck or privilege. It's about making good choices and taking action.
I love that. It's about taking control and designing the life you want.
So for our listener, the one who's been taking all these notes, what's the one thing we want them to remember?
You have the power to create your own financial future. Don't wait for somebody to tell you what to do. Take ownership, invest in yourself, build a future that you're proud of.
Love it. And remember, the best time to start is right now. Don't let fear hold you back. Just take that first step.
Exactly. And you'll be amazed at what you can achieve. So go